Hello.
Hello,
Good morning. How are you, sir?
I'm good.
My session is in the room next door, but
Okay,
it's locked.
it's locked. Okay, let me call the person.
I don't know if the one is supposed to need a less.
Yeah, let me send a message.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. On the fourth page.
Sorry?
On the fourth page.
No, thank you. Thank you for offering. We have a session here.
Yes.
Which one?
12:45.
Oh, what session is it?
Okay. So you have to check. Grieving suicide, murder, and possible instance at one.
I'm just going to check. I'm glad to see. That's the room. Yeah. It's a good move.
Yes.
It's a good move.
Absolutely.
That's
So the camera don't do that the way they do. You go see switch them up. Abi, switch up and this one, but yes, switch up and are you sure it's connected? Think so. I don't think it is from this one. You are same thing.
Yeah. I think about few and three. And for them. Wow. And then especially feeling.
When is the session starting? What time? 12:30. 12:45.
And there's like a conversation. I'm sure the conversation will start there. You can also ask yourself to condemn that, because I know that Barbara doesn't want to see your presentation.
Well, that's my name.
Out there,
Yes.
yeah, I will just back in that.
I think let me go back to this camera. Camera.
That's okay, that's okay. Let it go. I'm still affected. And actually, I'll go back. Very well. But just say.
That's not the example. Not the example. Well, can sit here now.
I get it, but what I'm saying.
Well,
Each sentence, I'm not sure what to use it.
Go to video. Yeah, go to video. Okay, yes, don't actually. Yeah. Wow. But this option was not there. I've checked that place before. Uh, so, let's see. Yeah, I think everything is working perfect. May we bring this because a lot of people love watching. A lot of people sleep forward. This. Maybe enough. Yeah. We sell us. Because there's enough space here, that's what I'm saying. That's now still love people. Yeah, I mean, we work before. It's there, but there is. It's not actually. Just me that. I take this back there and this.
Someone's coming.
Yeah, I'll drop the message.
Sorry?
I'll drop the message there. Yeah.
Okay. I know that you sent it. Did someone answer saying he was coming?
Let me see. Let me go there. These rooms, those.
Yeah. He has the patient there? Yeah, no one is here. You cannot punch them.
Come here this way now. Oh, you see. Oh, you see. I was saying maybe this people come here and we arrange this here. And so that those are the families can do still. Yeah, that's what you want. Let's take it up first. Yeah. Give me one. One second, one, please.
Yes, that's for sure. I think I like these things.
Yes, yes.
No, but yeah, maybe it did.
Very much.
That's
Okay, so man, good afternoon. Good afternoon.
This is your. What's sitting in already? This is like fun. Let's is the way. What's media? Really good idea.
Yes. You can even see it.
This suggest still. See, then I will try to get it. I will get it. You decided on CCA. Some people are passing today. Come in now. No.
They said,
Yeah.
I don't want too far from now. Very shy of me, I'm greeting you if you are there in
Good morning, ma'am. I've been smiling ever. Good morning. Thank you for attending, ma'am.
Yeah, Kagari, I'll meet you.
Yeah, I've missed you too. Yeah. I should be attending LSA next year, physically.
I want to see your face again.
Yeah. I'll be attending physically next year.
Then, I will do it.
Look at I was waiting.
No. Let's show you my seat. This was my earlier class. My seat.
Okay.
Electrical seats there. This is what we use. We use the projector. I don't know why they use come and projector here. And the AC box, I don't know why they're using fan. It was very good. Yeah, it was very well.
Okay.
This one didn't work. Like
This one doesn't work, even though it's indicating a green light.
these two ACs are working. I think one to reach overnight right here. But this is the area class for us as well because we are teaching. So we reach to our class. Today we are here on the conference hall in IBS. There's no lectures, we go to the lecturer of the
Chair, negotiation, mental. Yeah.
From
Yeah.
Okay.
And some slash more than 20 show me. Can I just sit down here?
Okay, you want to sit down?
You do
the home system.
Don't go and sit there. Or you just leave.
Yeah, you can. Do you want us to
I can. I don't know how strong the network is. Just project it and you want.
just so the thing is so you so as why you can say if you want us
So I don't want to say next all the time.
it's fine. You can just indicate by nod right.
So let me see.
So yeah, so sir, you are the
So it's a PowerPoint. The linguistic landscape. Now you know, the linguistic landscape. That's
Ken, where's the
Here I am right now with the switches. For offense, very conventional. Did you make a do with it?
all the news we are hearing?
There's a little bit of feet now.
What are you talking about? I just asked questions.
Okay. So let's place that in. I need a mother.
There's a problem with this drive. Sir, there's a problem with the drive. That's what I say.
See, look that way.
Sir?
Look that way. The problem was at one point, it can be a problem of
Oh.
continue without standing. You want to what? I'm using it.
Check. Is this your folders?
Yes.
Is here.
Just
Is here.
it's there. It's below you. Scroll down. See, you see the linguist. No. You open that. You open the folder. Not in the folder. Just scroll down. The linguistic landscape of yes. I mentioned the linguistic.
Okay. So there are 5 panelists, then 1 chair. So the chair is here, then the facial online. Namdi, then facial Akindo is on. Mukhtar Adewale. Okay. Amawab Salah, then Samuel Chinaza, then Ejio Fong. Just wait. So.
Please, I think move your side.
Seaside, Mother and Lost Body in Africa. This is our first session for the conference presentation. Yeah, we welcome all our panelists who are in different parts of the world and across different time zones. Today we want to embark on some intellectual conversation around our propose the topic for the panel. We'll be having presentations from and precarious violence case by Feisayo Akindoyin. Akindoyin. I don't know if I'm getting your name correctly. So correct me if I'm wrong. Then the second person is digital mourning in the aftermath of EndSARS, Grief, Memory and Resistance in African Digital Media Space by Mokta Adewale Alabi. Am I correct? Yeah, Alabi. Okay, all right. Yeah, then the linguistic landscape of mourning in Nigeria by Abdul Salam Olawale Amo. I don't think he has joined the session yet, has he? Then the next person is a failure of mourning, extrajudicial killings and carnage in southeastern Nigeria since 2021 by Samuel Chinaza Ikeze. And the last one will be Death and the Digital Afterlife, the impact of messaging apps on personal grief by Ejiofor Udunwogu. So I don't know. We already mentioned in the WhatsApp group that we will be running short of time, for which our presentation may be quite brief. So sorry for not giving you enough time to do justice to maybe your research paper. Because of that, we will acknowledge the fact that what you'll be sharing with us may just be a portion of your research. And yeah, we may not have a comprehensive understanding. So pardon some comments and questions that may not have a full grasp of what you've achieved in your research, because we'll just be responding to or reacting to your presentation based on the information you shared with us. For that reason, we would also want to retreat one of the core values of the organizers of the conference, which is to encourage a constructive criticism and feedback. And not this is not an opportunity to bring anybody down or to show much erudition, but to still have encourage each other to grow. So please, we would be very straight with time, because any time excess will be encroaching in another person's presentation. So we already have a time properly allotted to each of the presenters. Try our best to abide by the time. So the first of our presenter is Feisayo Akindoyin. I don't know, before we proceed, whether any of you has any comment or question or any concern to raise. And my colleague Ogochukwu, I don't know if you have something to say.
Faye, I was supposed to read your bio, but I don't know if we got one from you.
Yes, I sent one, but it's okay if you cannot find it.
Oh, really?
I sent it an email.
Was that earlier or yesterday? Sorry.
I was asking you, Feisayo. You are muted. Can you unmute yourself and talk?
Yeah, I said not yesterday. I thought we did when we. But
No, it
it's okay.
wasn't
Let's just
included in your abstract.
It's not exactly in your interest. I mean, it's about others who may be interested in what you do and want to
I
get
will
closer.
introduce myself.
All right, that's okay then. Thank you.
Yeah, you can proceed with your presentation.
All right, thank you very much. I am Feisayo Akindoyin, a PhD student in the Department of History at the University of Calgary. And then I'll be presenting a paper titled Faith, Spirituality, and Human Survival in Nigerian Violence Case. So I like to share my screen. Thank you. I'll be presenting a paper titled Faith, Spirituality, and Human Survival in Nigerian Violence Case. And first, I would like to introduce some key concepts. Like, what do I mean by faith? Faith could mean the Christian concept of faith. Faith is any substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. It could be a system of beliefs and trusts, particularly in something that we do not have evidence for or proofs at all. So faith could mean trust, it could mean belief. And then spirituality could be living one's life beyond the everyday existence, believing in something that is outside the physical. It could be linked with your spirit, with your soul. It could be based on your religious belief or not even based on your religious beliefs. And then human survivors are ways people try and struggle to live in precarious spaces, live and not die or wither away. Navigate their spaces, navigate their ways, survive, care for themselves, and then by violence escapes, I mean places continually marred by different sorts of conflicts, and then over time, places known for its violent nature, for conflict. And then the questions I intend to ask: in what ways did faith and spirituality serve as last resorts and survival mechanisms in Nigeria's precarious violence case? How did faith and spirituality galvanize human certainty of safety and notion of hope? In what ways did faith and spirituality intersect with human notions of hope, grace, healing, and therapy? In the violence scapes that I will be talking about later in the course of my presentation, people find ways of living a new reality outside of their realities. Of a truth, there are violence in this area, but people choose to live a new kind of life. People live as though those areas were not marred by violence, as though they will survive in those areas because they have other forms of reality. They are trying to live, or they do live, in another space entirely, in a violent scape. How are they able to do this? How are they able to employ different kinds of spirituality? Those that are material, those that they apply to survive, and those that they just believe in, that kept them, staying in places that are marred by violence, and still they do not leave all of those precarious spaces. They believe that they would survive based on these things. How were they able to use their faith and spirituality as a defense and as a survival mechanism? Those are the questions I asked in my research. So the research objective is to examine the complex ways people negotiate their ways out of precarious violence scapes in Nigeria, examine how Nigerian people deploy the notion of faith and spirituality as defense and survival mechanisms in violence situations. And then now to my case studies. So the first is the last scale wars, where death is almost inevitable. Here I select the Nigerian Civil War. And then in the course of my interaction with people, I interviewed them and I was like, how were you able to survive during the war situations? Some persons were like, it is God. Some persons were like, while there was scarcity of materials, scarcity of food, and then other essential items that could aid their survival, but they had faith. They had faith in God, and then they prayed, and then God showed up. Some persons were even linking it with some of the Bible cases that they know. People were giving me spiritual reasons, spiritual explanations, what they believed in, what they used that enabled them to survive. And then the second one is everyday violence that brings death near to both actors and non-actors in the violence scape. Here I focus on street fights among members of the road transport workers. NURTW, all those groups, in the course of their interactions, their daily interaction, their business, many a times violence happens in spaces like Ajegunle, Ibadan, where different, transport groups have issues. People have ways of, navigating those spaces, despite the fact that the fight could be deadly. They have ways of surviving. They believe in some spiritual items that could aid their survival. Whether those spiritual items works, I don't know. But their faith alone makes them stay in that violent spaces, make them stay in that occupation, make people who live around those violent areas stay there because they believe they could live outside of their reality, that the violence existing around them is actually not their reality, but they do have a new reality promoted by their faith and spirituality in all of these spaces. While people might argue that, oh, you are studying out spaces because of the failure of the state to provide security, and then because of the failure of the state to manage conflict in all of these spaces. I am not looking at the failure of the state. I'm not even looking at the state at all in this entity, but I'm looking at how people were able to carve out space for themselves, even in violent spaces, and by so doing, survive. So the methods that I use, historical and anthropological approach from newspapers, visual, archival data, and then written works. So my main argument is that faith and spirituality are two important ingredients of survival mechanisms in African violence schemes. Actors and non-actors, non-violent actors in Nigerian precarious violence schemes employ faith and spirituality. So that's basically is my argument. So I conclude by saying that faith and spirituality are two important ingredients of survival mechanisms in African violence escapes. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. Sorry, I forgot to mention earlier that we'll be taking comments and questions at the end of all presentations. So you can note down your questions, your reactions, pending when all the presenters must have given us their presentation. And sorry, I will also have to mention that when you see a hand raised, that's since we don't have a means to remind you. Once you see a hand being raised on the screen, know that you have maybe 2 minutes left to conclude your presentation. So this will help us to manage time appropriately. Thank you very much. So we call on the next presenter, who is Mokhtar Adewale. Thank you.
Alabi is a
Yeah.
PhD candidate and FYE instructor in the Department of English at the University of South Carolina. His research centers on African literature, digital media studies, and performative studies, with a particular focus on the interplay between digital media and contemporary activism in Africa. Alabi investigates how digital platforms influence storytelling, identity formation, and collective resistance, illuminating their role in reshaping literary and cultural narratives. Alabi, you are welcome.
Thank you so much. Once again, my name is Mokhtar Alabi, and thanks for the introduction. While I try to make this to put these as a slide, I don't know if you can see as a slide properly, but it seems it's showing like a document that is maybe not. Please be with me, and probably you can manage the view I have. My topic is digital mourning in the aftermath of NSAS, which is a protest in Nigeria, grief, memory, and resistance in African digital media spaces. My paper is inspired considering the fact that there was a movement that led to the massacre of the protesters, and a lot of events happened beyond the 2020 NSAS protest. Um, uh, we should note that before all these occurrences, in many African communities, in many African cultures, mourning itself is more than something that is emotional. Rather, it is communal, it is embodied and sacred. So, when we want grieving in most African nation, we have a process. Um, this spans through the libations, naming of the dead, storytelling, and ancestral rites. So all these acts give grief a structure and it gives it a meaning. But in moments of crisis, like the aftermath of the NSAS protests, this ritual become impossible to a greater extent. So as a background information, it is necessary to note that the event we're talking about is the NSAS protest that was heard October 2020, that was reported that Nigerian security forces opened fire on peaceful protesters at the Lekki toll gate. So following these, the state officials denied that there were no, that they said there were no killing, but killing were reported by independent media and by eyewitnesses, also by the people who had the body of the dead ones disappeared. So public mourning as a result need to be done. But when the body disappeared, public mourning at the same time was restricted and criminalized by the state itself. So in this kind of situation, this was not just a loss of life, it was a kind of rupture of cultural continuity. We're talking about the culture of grieving the dead. So how did these people mourn without bodies of the people, without graves, without funerals? So in the absence of physical closure, people turn to digital spaces in order to do that. And it was here through this platform like X, formerly Twitter, that mourning found a new form for the Nigerian people as a result of the NSAS massacre. Um, my research focus um, is basically I'm going to look at the three questions for my research. I want to look at how traditional African mourning practices shape digital mourning itself. At the same time, how does digital mourning in turn become a form of protest? And lastly, how do digital platforms like X, allow the creation of grief communities when we couldn't find a physical body? And how does this turn to memory archive, the memory of the dead, and a form of resistance rituals? So, in order to achieve this, my theoretical framework, um, I adopted two theories. That is Victor Turner, his theory based on ritual and liminality, which also understand mourning as a transition, a process where a disrupted state violence, that was disrupted due to state violence. And at the same time, the second theory I'm using here is Judith Butler, where she tried to theorize grievability, probably showing us how mourning can become a political act to solve. Together, this framework is going to allow me to see digital mourning not just as emotional expression, but as cultural and political reconfiguration. I source my data from the YouTube platform and strictly X. Um, so to start with, the naming of the dead. So naming of the dead in African tradition is a form of spiritual invocation. So it's how the living ensure that the dead are remembered and they're honored. So on X, we see this adaptation in where we have remember the names. We have threads like that with many conversation under it. People listed victims' name people mention victims' name and try to use candles, pictures, candle emojis, and different kind of emoji, and to say prayers through this platform in order to remember the dead. So these acts become due to libation, restoring the dignity to the lives that were denied a proper ritual, the body that could not be found. Or the body, some were found, but we could not come out to do the normal grieving process for them. So we had to resort to using the digital platform to do that. So naming here wasn't just memory. So it was defiance, the defiance of the state denier and the state restriction itself. Moving forward, we look at the mourning of the unseen, ritual in the absence of the body. So what do you do when there was no body to bury? When your grief has no object, there's nothing physical. See, there's nothing that could be mourned physically. So you have to you create a ritual that based on what you have. So users on X posted counter emojis like blood-stained Nigerian flags, video flyers, and all the mourning acts. So these became symbolic substitutes for the absence of the body. So when we can find the body, we use all these pictures, all these mourning objects that we could find. So a platform like a digital platform like X became a virtual shrine that shared the memory and make it sacred and kind of a socially witnessed event. Um, Moving forward, talking about the grieve as resistance itself, a counter memory practice. One of the most powerful function of the digital mourning was resistance itself. So users placed screenshots of government denial next to the image of the victims. You denied this, but this is the victim, and we couldn't find the body. So where's the body? So the post never forgets under the tweets, under every anniversary that you've there for the 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. And then this had become a kind of tradition. So mourning here became counter archive. So by fusing science that preserve memory and start the visibility, when you think you could we could not grieve the body, but we find another way to grieve it, so we make it grievable. um, uh, but it is also necessary to note that this kind of situation make and so, in conclusion, we have to ask ourselves, so what do to monitor? Okay, so the need to monitor, in this case, so the grief wasn't limited to Nigeria, so we could see, so it spans through across different spaces. So what does digital money do? It offers closure in the absence of ritual itself. It rebuilds memory in the face of erasure itself, and it transforms grief into resistance. So mourning after the Ensis massacre was not silence, it was speech. Okay, not private, it was collective, and not powerless, it was different. So, and we could see passing across, it is not just about Nigerians, but it is about Africans. So it became Afro-political resistance itself. So in conclusion, to conclude, in all contexts, foreigner were denied, but they found a way to do that. Mourning was threatened, but they found a way to do that. Nigerians consequently turned grief into powerful political forces, and on X, mourning became ritual itself. Naming became invocation itself. Grief became memory, and memory became resistance. So here I think I had to take a break considering the time constraints. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. You really were very conscious of time. Yeah, thank you. I don't know if Amo, that's Abdul Salam is here. I'm surprised that he made a comment some time ago asking, well, I think he commented on the WhatsApp or something like that. Did anyone hear from him? Because I can't find him here. Okay, we may move
Hello.
to the Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, great. Thank you.
Should I proceed now?
Okay. All right. Just a minute while we read your. Do we have your bio? I suppose we do.
Yes, we
Okay.
should. I'm getting them.
Okay. Okay.
Just a moment. Okay, Absalom Amor is a scholar with research interests in onomastics, linguistic landscape, and the broader intersections between language and society. He teaches social linguistics at the Federal University, Wukari, and is a PhD student in English at the University of Ibadan, Nigeria. Welcome, Absalom.
Thank you very much. Depending on how close one is to the other person will try in one way or another to express their grief in terms of death, loss of life and property, disappearance, and other instances that bring about grief. So that led to this topic. It's important to emphasize that. It's important to share it as a PowerPoint. Share it as a PowerPoint. Yes. There will be a problem later. Share it as PowerPoint as a full presentation. F5. So as I was saying, and these public expressions of grief are done through posters, they are placed on tombstones, on banners, and some other mediums. F5. Done so. Share that screen.
Ask them to just click that thing that looks like a cup down the screen. The icon that looks like a cup.
All right. So these public expressions of grief are shown on posters. They are written on tombstones, on banners, and some other mediums. And the linguistic landscape is concerned with the representation of signs in public spaces. At times, these signs are placed by public institutions or by private individuals or businesses. As the case may be, this is what we refer to as linguistic landscape. As you look around you, you see various signs written in one language or another. So these signs will perform various functions. As we see in this one, this is a poster of a missing person. So, and Nigeria is a linguistically diverse nation with some estimates between 250 and 520 languages in the country. And Nigerians, in one way or another, express grief. And in one way or another, they reflect this with their emotion, their culture, and their religious values. So in this picture, these are just examples. So these are just examples of the sources used in the data. As I said earlier, linguistic landscape, it can be done by the government, at times it can be done by individuals. This is just a depiction of that. Those that are done by government are known as top. You have those that are bottom up and top bottom. So regarding why do we need to carry out the study, it's important to note that there have been several studies around mourning in Nigeria, but linguistic landscape particularly has been under research when it comes to with the studies within linguistic landscape. So a few studies that exist focus on the practices and representations in newspapers. So the study focuses on three objectives, which include the identifying the languages used on this science, analyzing the linguistic strategies, as well as the communicative and symbolic functions. Regarding the scope of the study, this study is focused on those in public spaces, publicly displayed signs. It's also particularly, as I said earlier, talk about tombstones, obituaries, missing or wanted persons, and condolence banners. And all these are bottom up, as against top down, which are the ones done by government officials. So the study is significant. Just continue. The study is significant based on various factors which are shown on the screen. Nigeria is, as I said earlier, is linguistically diverse, and this study will be relevant to communicators, scholars, and public memorial planners as they present elements that become part of the linguistic landscape of money. So data from this study, the descriptive design is adopted for the study. Data were purposely sampled across Nigeria using photography and social media text as an alternative in case in places that could not be physically reached. So, talking about the first of the objectives, the languages used on the public signs, the languages used. Altogether, 192 signs were examined and evaluated. And based on this, in terms of language use, English is the most widely used language, taking 67.7% of all this morning signs, while other languages such as English combined with Arabic, English combined with Yoruba, or combining the two, and Niger, we have such occurrences. And we have one instance of Hausa and Arabic. So the use of English is because it's what is mutually intelligible to, or generally intelligible to everyone in Nigeria, or in those public spaces where they are found, and people can easily access them and read them and interpret whatever is meant there. So Arabic is mainly used in the domain of religion, or maybe to express some spiritual statements. Yoruba is just used in instances to express cultural intimacy or to praise the dead or the person affected. So these are just examples of this. In this instance, we have English, Niger, and Yoruba used. In this other instance, we have just English used. Next one. In this particular instance, at the top of this, we have something written in Latin script, which is Arabic, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, followed by some other expressions in English. The other one is entirely in English. This equally is entirely in English. In this case, we have three languages there. At the top, we have Arabic. For most of the text, we have English. Then in that red spot there, you see something in red written there. So what is written there is like in what we call a praise poetry in Yoruba culture. It's just a praise poetry of this particular person. It's known as Oriki. So praising the person as they do in Yoruba, and ends with the statement Sunreo, meaning sleep well. So this is quasi entirely in English, just like this. And this is a tombstone. It's written in partly Arabic and mostly English. In this case, we have a wreath placed on a tombstone or on a burial ground, just with spells dad, and we have another one with the spelling mom there. Just this was equally because we are talking about grieving. Even when it's not written, at times when it's placed there and it's written language, it's part of the linguistic landscape analysis that we do. So beyond all this, we have some linguistic strategies adopted by the mourners or the people that lost one person or another. So they use elements, they use words that are metaphors to describe death as something else. At times they will describe death as a spiritual journey, as we have in this person begins a final journey, as they have in the case of they talk about movement or transition, or use words like transition to glory, transition to eternity, transition to eternal glory. At times it could be they use death to represent a mission or battle. Say last crusade is used on one obituary poster, and so many on these other ones showing on the screen. Beyond this, we equally have the use of euphemism. And in the use of euphemism, they make something that is a source of grief rather. They make it milder in the choice of words. We have this call to glory, transition to glory, passing on to glory, clearly mean death. But when you say gone too soon, it means that the person died prematurely. According to the mourners, the person died prematurely. And sudden departure means the person died unexpectedly. Still like a dream.
I'm sorry, Abdul Salam, your time is up. Can you conclude?
All right. So the third of the linguistic beyond linguistic strategies, just continue. We have religious expressions used, and beyond religious, just continue. Beyond religious expressions, we also see the third objective. Talking to about the third objective was about. Okay, take a look. Okay. Just take all this. Just like to conclude that from this study, we've shown that the third objective was about the functions. The functions of this poster of these expressions of grief in public spaces would vary from praying, from appealing to grieving to some other functions. And they tried as much as possible to present them as based on their emotion or cultural experiences. So in the case, and they use Yoruba, they use Arabic, as I said earlier, and they use English most of the time. The use of Arabic is mainly to express religious feeling.
Thank you very much. Sorry, we cannot
Thank
proceed again. Thank you. All right. Yeah, the next presenter is Sam. Sam, are you there?
Yes,
Hello,
I'm here.
Sam.
I'm here.
Okay. Ogochukwu, I hope you can have access to his bio.
Yes, sir. Samuel
Okay.
Ikwe, him, is a PhD student of English and Cultural Studies at the McMaster University in Canada. He's interested in African literature, anti-colonial and decolonial studies, cultural studies, and environmental humanities. Ikwe's research combines his knowledge of African literature and politics, Igbo indigenous knowledge of southeastern Nigeria, cultural studies, and decoloniality. He has a publication in African journalism studies and other ongoing projects. Ikweze is also a poet with several creative publications and has collaborated in curating other artists. Welcome, Mr. Okweze.
Thank you so much. My paper today is titled "A Failure of Mourning in Understanding Extrajudicial Killings in the Southeastern part of Nigeria." I start this by reflecting on the problems of I start this by reflecting on the problems of Nigeria, realizing that Nigeria has always had a volatile landscape from at one point or another, thinking of the Nigerian Biafran War, which I believe has been unaddressed in the public memory as an important incident in the Nigerian experience, and and I reflect on this, factoring in the fact that the silences of the Civil War and the experience has continued to dictate how we react to various other incidents in Nigeria, especially in terms of violence and brutality. And so with that, I think of the current incident of sit at home in the southeastern part of Nigeria, which has become the cost for approximately 1,700 killings, deaths, and I think of how sit at home has intensified insecurity in Southeast, and how in the wake of all these things, there is a failure to think about the importance of mourning the people who have died, and also doing the actual work of mourning those people who have died. I look at the problems of I look at the research that has been carried out by people in terms of sit at home, and examining over 10 materials on sit at home. I realized that a lot of scholars have talked about how sit at home has become a problem for Nigerians in terms of for southeastern Nigerian citizens, in terms of how it has contributed to violence, and has become brought security, economical, and social problems. The researchers highlight the reduction in economic progress in southeastern part of Nigeria, and even the problem of educating the education, like academic activities going on Mondays. Sit at home is, by the way, often carried out on Mondays to demand the release of the leader of IPOB group, Mr. Nnamdi Kanu. So in the essays that I reviewed, I discovered that there is this urge to think of what is being lost with sit at home in place and its enforcement. But I noticed that there is no attempt to actually hold before our gaze and think of what it means to lose people, and think of who had and think of the silences about who has been lost, bring it into the public space and make it a collective endeavor, thinking and mourning the people who have been lost. And I realized that this does not mean that grieving has not been taking place, that these people who have died have not been are not being grieved or mourned. But what I'm thinking about in this paper is where public and collective mourning and communal mourning as a communal project merges with private mourning process to enable us think about the effects and the implications of these deaths and violence in the communities as a communal experience. So these essays can be seen as a form of public performance of grieving. However, there are no attempts to examine collective ungrievability, lack of mourning of or for these deaths and their effect on the coherence of Igbo people as a communal entity. There are no in-depth studies of the implications of these deaths. Also, there are no mentions of various forms of interventions from the state and reactions from the people in the face of these killings. one may ask if this happens because these deaths are not found worthy of capturing our thoughts, or if there are other things that are being mourned which are more important than looking at the lives that are lost. So as a result, I think of what it means to consider this mourning as a collective project. Consider mourning in the face of these deaths as a collective project, and the gains that would come not just to the individuals who are mourning their lost ones, but to the people who are to the entire members of the southeastern region as a group. I also think that this is something that can benefit the rest of the remaining the rest of the Nigerian communities who are going through incidents of killings and deaths. Now, mourning as a praxis. To think of mourning, I look at Derrida, who considers mourning as a practice that are in two phases, but are always incomplete. He thinks of faithful, unfaithful mourning, which he sees as the interiorization of the other, and he also thinks of a failure to mourn, which he considers as the exteriorization of the other. So in faithful, unfaithful mourning, which he considers is actually signals the impossibility of separating the person who has died, which has been considered in the classics from Freud to Laplanche and Pontalis as the work of mourning. He thinks that the separation of the other from the subject who is mourning is incomplete, because at one point or another the subject takes up the other that is mourned as part of themselves. But then thinking of his own idea, which he calls the failure to mourn, he considers that as what helps the person who is mourning to not subsume the other, but or struggle to separate the other from do away with the other, but to hold the other in their exteriority, look at them as subjects to be beheld, and so he thinks that when mourning is done in this way, the death of the other is considered as irreplaceable, and it's what enables the one who is thinking of the dead to survive. And Judith Butler, agrees with this when they say that when one accepts that by the loss one undergoes, one will be changed possibly forever, and continues that perhaps mourning has to do with agreeing to undergo a transformation, highlighting the transformational effect of mourning. Now, one of the things I'm thinking of right in this paper is what the community does when we think of mourning as a communal practice, what the community does when the community in one way or the other is implicated in the death of in the loss that it's experiencing. How does the community struggle with this, and what does it do? Derrida goes back to the Greek.
Sorry, your time is up. Can you give us just the conclusion? Yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, so what I did in the paper is to look at to consider the statements of the leaders in the southeastern part of Nigeria. Look at the governors, their statements, and then look at even the distancing that happened between Ohaneze and IPOB group during the sit-at-home, when the sit-at-home killings became very rampant. And I see that what happens is that nobody is calling death by its name, and nobody is recognizing the people who have died. So I wonder if if there is a problem, if there is a move or a
Thank you,
disappointment.
Sam, but we cannot proceed further with your presentation. Thank you very much. Yeah. The last paper we have is by Ejiofor Udumogu. Yeah. Ejiofor, are you there? Oh, he's there. All right. Let's have your bio.
Ejiofor is a graduate student in English and Cultural Studies at McMaster University, Hamilton, Ontario, and a former secondary school teacher in Nigeria. His research interests are in African literatures and Nigerian education, culture, and politics, engaged through critical education and pedagogy, resistance, anti-oppression, decolonial, post-colonial, and representation theories. You're welcome, Ogu.
Thank you. Thank you, Olochukwu. Okay, I'll start right away. The title of my paper, it's Death and the Digital Afterlife, Instant Messaging, Grief, and Emotional Dilemma of Remembering. So what I'm doing in this, I start on the premise that the internet and social media have influenced how we grieve, mourn, and remember the dead. Social networking sites, especially Facebook, expands special social and temporal connections with the dead. And this is by Boubacar Hayes and Dorish. So grieving has become more visible, more communal, and more mediated, because of the internet and social media or social networking sites. The idea is that scholars have argued that, particularly in the West, in 20th century, medicalization and professionalization of death has privatized death, which means that communities have been removed from the dead and the dying, so that mourning, grieving, and remembering have become more private. But then the advent of the internet and social media, some way deprivatized mourning, so that we begin to see mourning, grieving, and remembering in the public sphere again. That these shifts have led to emergence of new terms and new theories, and also rethinking of existing ones. And so what I intend to do in this presentation is to draw from insights afforded by those terms and those new theories to reflect on and analyze my own experiences of loss in the past 6 years. And what I want to focus on is the emotional and the emotional significance of chat histories with deceased loved ones, those people I lost, reflecting on the chat that I have had with them before their death. I also explore these chats as something that have become an affective archive of grief, something I went to not just when those people died, but I still go back to, as a way of remembering them. And then the key concepts or theories are this: digital afterlife, which is the idea that digital assets, digital data remain after people have died. And then continuing bond, which is actually a theory of grief that is arguing that there is a sustained relationship with the dead, as against the other theory that it is pathological to maintain a relationship with the dead. So that theory is favoring letting go, but continuing bond is saying, as Elena Cascade captures it, that while relationships with the dead necessarily do not change, they do not end. They do not end as such. They do change, but they do not end as such. And then there is digital immortality, which is from the idea that online lasts forever, as people say, which is to say that because people's digital remains, digital data, digital avatars are always online and has the tendency to remain forever, that those people would continue to be to be alive, which means they've attained immortality by virtue of the fact that their digital assets remain and data are always there. So, but then Deborah Bassett is proposing digital endurance as something she thinks is more appropriate, because they're suggesting that online does not actually last forever as such, while Elena Cascade is saying outright that online is not forever, right? So, and then I take on many of the studies have given attention to Facebook, right, as a quintessential social media networking site. And then it's been described as a digital grave marker, right? So according to Cascade, Lena Cascade, she says that many Facebook profiles are becoming grave markers of the dead. And then why Deborah Bassett is saying that up to 8,000 Facebook users die daily, which is to say this makes Facebook acquisition space for not just mourning, but also remembering the dead, because the profiles of the dead are always there, at least last for some time. Now, while all of these attentions have been given to Facebook, WhatsApp, and Facebook Messenger share also in some mourning affordances that Facebook offers. But they also have their unique quality to facilitate personal and private grieving, unlike Facebook that is more public. And so I'm arguing that while attention has been given to Facebook, little or no attention has been given to WhatsApp and messaging, instant messaging, Facebook Messenger, which incidentally belong to the same parent company, which is Meta. So my study is focusing on WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger's capacity to mediate and facilitate grieving, mourning, and also remembering the dead. And then my own personal encounter with loss. In 2019, I lost a cousin of mine was murdered in January. In 2023, January also, my uncle was murdered in his workshop in Awka, Anambra State. In 2024, I lost a long-time friend who died after about 10 years, about a decade of illness. Now, what is common in this loss is that there are all individuals that I have had in the time when they were alive had chats with. For my friend, our chat was basically on WhatsApp. While for my cousin and for my uncle, we had at some point in their life had conversations on Facebook Messenger. And this chat history comprises both text and voice notes, some of which I can still access at the moment. And so the existence of this chat history has changed how I grieve personally and remember my dead loved ones. So in the past, when I was a teenager, I would rely on the memories I shared with those people, try to remember them when I think of them, remember those memories. And I could also rely on printed photographs where such it's available. But because these chat histories exist, at the moment I learn that these people have died, that becomes the first place I go to relive the experiences that I had with them, and then I also go back there, and when I remember them, knowing that this chat, I can't have it again. This voice note that I can listen to, the owners of these voices cannot speak to me again. So they become some kind of solace, but also listening to them is also so emotionally charged for me. So these archives offer immediate and enduring access to memory. So that's the thing. And then they because I can still access them, they mediate and facilitate my capacity or my ability to maintain bond with these people. Unlike, say, a photograph would have done in the past, or my memory, which will be limited in allowing me to maintain bond with these people. So listening to a voice note, it's more like I am listening to this person again. And so, but these chat histories they also reflect deep care, concern, and connection that I shared with these people. For instance, my cousin, sometime in November 2018, when we were chatting, has encouraged me to be strong in my struggle. While my uncle also encouraged me sometime when we were chatting during NSAS protest. I was in Ogun State then, but he thought I was living in Lagos. I was telling me to be careful wherever I went to. Why for my friend, even in spite of what she was suffering for 10 years, she also had the capacity to show care, to show concern, and to generally be kind. For instance, she tells me one day, you've been a very good friend consistently, and I never want to lose you. But less than 1 year she made that statement, she died. And so but then in this history, there is also some complexity in terms of these individuals. My uncle and my cousin, for instance, who were believed to be cult members when they were alive, so that their deaths were supposedly cult related. So the dilemma for me is, how do I reconcile their persona as members of a cult group and the care that they have shown me, which is evident in the chart that we have that we shared. Now, so I am reflecting finally on the ethics of grieving. How morally right or ethically right is it for me to share these conversations that I had with these people that are close to me, and these conversations are personal. So for me, I share them because it's my way of preserving these charts. reflecting on them and also remembering these people. It's also my way of paying tribute to the memories that we shared. And also because the proposal is saying that this thing, digital does not last forever. For me, with instant messaging, it's always already the case that you will lose it one day. Either you update your phone or you update the app. So losing it is just a matter of time. So I am replacing digital endurance and digital mortality with digital ephemerality, which is to say that I know that one day I will lose this chart, but I don't know when. So my writing this essay or doing this reflection is my way of preserving this chart and these memories beyond the reality of instant messages. So finally, chat histories are effective and complex archives of grief. They support digital remembrance and challenge mourning norms. And my work also invites us to reflect on the chat that we have with people now. What would it be like? What emotions would it generate in people who are still living when we die, or what emotion does it generate in us when those people die? Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, Jafo, and thank you all our presenters. These were really amazing presentations. Once again, we apologize for not having enough time for you to dwell so much on your research. I believe that any of the participants who is interested in your presentation may want to reach out afterwards to get more details from you. So the remaining time we'll be using it for questions, comments, and feedback. Any reactions? You can pick any of the presenters you are interested, you would want to react to their presentation.
Someone's hand is up.
Yeah, we also have attendees. I
Yes.
suppose they can ask questions or make comments. I don't know if the organizers enable them
Someone's hand
to
is up there.
participate. Okay, so sorry.
Hello, sir. There are some audience here.
Okay.
They have some questions to ask.
Okay. Oh, good. Good. Yeah, go ahead with your question.
Okay.
So I have two questions, one for Joe for and one for Wallet. So in terms of that Bassett work, the kind of digital endurance of data, I would definitely urge you to take that seriously. You know, my grandmother passed away 13 years ago, and at the time I had all of these kind of digital remnants of her, and all the platforms and places those were preserved have since ceased to operate. And I would give the example of Facebook, for instance. Several years ago, when Facebook's traffic was down, they pitched the idea of taking everyone's friends lists and just deleting them. That would encourage everyone to get back on and to make new friends. And there was a time too when Facebook was, when they were informed, was actually deleting the accounts of people who were deceased. And then they created this kind of thing to try and create Facebook memorial pages. But I would say the seriousness of these kind of big tech companies in ensuring that our data is preserved just doesn't exist. So that's kind of more of a comment and a caution than a question. And then Wallet, for you, my question is, you have all this kind of interesting data, and I'm wondering if you've tried visualizing it. Like, could you map out the location of all of these public memorials? And if you were able to visualize your data in that way, I wonder what kinds of new insights you might get from that data.
All right, thank you very much for your comment. Yeah, Abdul Salam, you may have a response.
I think it's just some words of advice. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Let's take it this way. Let's do it this way. If you want to put it, let's bring on. Okay, go ahead. Yeah. Just today. Yeah, okay. Actually, my person is to be doctor, and it's a very good presentation. During it, But I mean, just being curious seems to be talks about an issue. So I'm just curious if you also look at the diversity when it comes to the issue as a region. Because if you take, for example, from town where I come from, the issue of restrictions in various is quite an interesting issue. Because take Izala, for example, Carelia and Tanzania. Tanzania and Carelia have no problem with that. The issue of the restrictions and maybe the length of the gradient. Izala, that's the issue. And that's the kind of really, it's complex. I only think possible advance with. Then secondly, another issue I have with paper is the question. I don't know, from your presentation, I see posters of wanted and these images, and then you're thinking about mourning. So I'm just curious about what the relation, what is the relationship between that and stuff. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Wait, just a minute. Just a minute. Please, the person asking question may need to come closer to the mic because I think those online find it difficult to hear them. Yes.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. And to all of the presenters, it was an enlightening session with you all. You all have a research filled with interesting areas to look at, and I commend you for carrying out this research. I have some contributions here, and also I do have some questions. So first of all, I was listening and looking at all of the presentations, and I noticed something in two of the presenters that their slide contains informations that might be personal. Particularly, I think Abdul Salam and another person, where you have posters of young girls, young individuals who are being stated to be missing. And I want to ask Abdul Salam, are you there?
Yes.
I want to ask, what ethical consideration did you obtain before using all of those posters? Because ethical guidelines in doing such research and using such data can be very sensitive. I can see some numbers on the posters. Did you make an attempt to contact those numbers on the posters to get consent from maybe the guardian or the parents or individuals who own those posters? That is one ethical consideration I think you should make important, and also state whenever you are using that data that ethical consent you are taking from individuals who own those resources. Then that aside, I also want to ask you a question. I got confused at a point. This question is for Abdul Salam. I got confused at the point where I started considering, is there something like permanent mourning and temporary mourning, something like that? Because you use information for missing persons. Were they forever missing? They were not found? Or you are going to look at the angle of mourning that has to do with permanent mourning, those who are dead, temporary mourning, those who went missing. So please consider what angle, I don't know. Then finally, I would also like to make requests for the slides to be shared, because I find some of the presentations very interesting, and I would like to have access to those slides and see what I can also, learn from it. Then the person who talked about digital immortality versus digital endurance by Deborah Bassett, I will personally contact you to discuss about the theory, because I'll be needing it for my own research work. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I don't know if
There's one more question.
anyone else has.
Yeah, somebody is coming up again.
Good afternoon, everyone.
My name is Ruthie Kagdama from the University of Jos, Department of Interaction of Religion. So mine is observation. The person that presented on NSAS. For me, because I passed through the journey of NSAS, I was in the whole everything that happened there to an extent. And I could recall 3 weeks ago, while I was driving through, I was going to the airport, within myself, I was like, yes, which means we have achieved something because the whole toll gates are still not functional. So it's an achievement. However, I feel there's this issue. For me, I would rather you work on, if you want to talk about crisis in Nigeria, because the issue of NSAS, up till today, we don't have actual information about those who died, the number of those who died, where their corpses are. Even as I remember the last time they were even asking the families of those who died should come out and tell us that my son left the house. He said he was coming for NSAS. He never came back. Or I called my son's friend. He said they were at NSAS. They shot him. There's evidence. So, it's something they're still contesting till tomorrow. So for me, if we're going to look, it's a very excellent field to look into. But I would rather, if you're doing such research, especially on crises, we have other crises that occurred with evidence, like the Biafra War and other wars. So I think when we're doing our work, we should work with, I believe in reality because I'm always on the field. I believe I always, even if I get archival evidence, I always want to go to the field and do comparison, except in cases where I can't access such environments. So for me, NSAS, it's a bit complicated because till today, they are still looking for people. I was literally at the spot of NSAS. I even provided flags when they said, when they come, raise your flag, nobody will shoot you. There was an incident like that. If anyone had witnessed NSAS, I was inside the whole event till the end. So until tomorrow, no one has come to say, my child went out, he didn't come back. Oh, my brother, we were together, they shot him, me, I'm alive. So I feel it's a bit complicated to work with such information. Thank you.
All right. May I proceed with the responses now?
All right. I think the last part of what she said almost got lost from network interruption. Yeah, I don't know if those online have any comments or reactions.
Okay. So I'll start. Most of the questions are for me here. So regarding religious diversity, I think the data focuses on where those inscriptions exist. Focuses on where those inscriptions exist. So that's why it was quite difficult finding tombstones in relation to places where they actually live in search in the north of Nigeria. So most times in Nigeria, Muslims generally don't usually mount something. They don't usually write something on their tombstones. It's usually bare floor. Or they put some stones on it in some places. But I think that it's left no written. Maybe they just write numbers in some places. That's what we're talking about, right? So the data will not be sourced from such places, but it was sourced from places where there were things written there. So regarding the inclusion of missing persons or wanted persons, the inclusion was because the posters, the makers of the signs were actually the victims. They lost something or they lost someone. That's why they posted. That's why they made the post. So that since the theme of this panel was on loss, I feel that, but they are really significant compared with those that are listed first. Regarding ethical considerations, I will put that in mind. Perhaps I will upload the phone numbers or faces when I need to publish this. And then the last comment, permanent or temporary. Generally, some signs are permanent, some signs are temporary. We're having an event next week. We create a banner around the event.
once that event is over, the slide is supposed to be there, we don't do it. But it's still a source of data for research like this.
Yes, I mean, the loss. When someone goes missing, there might be tendency that the person is found.
Yeah.
People prepare, the memories of that were not how they are. People, are they not memorialized enough? I'm concerned about that that sentence. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay,
Someone who
yeah, okay.
I'm wondering between Equals and Alavi, who raised their hands first?
Okay, I think the question is addressed to Samuel, right?
Okay,
You
okay.
made mention of Civil War, yeah. Mhm.
Someone,
Yeah.
you must not respond, though. You must not respond. If you don't have, you can just take that as a
You can
point
note
to
that, yeah,
consider.
sure.
As a point to.
But I would been done enough. But if you would go back to the beginning, the actual public entrance of IPOB movement in the southeastern Nigeria, you will realize that what they started with, apart from the initial broadcasts of Nnamdi Kanu, was to institute a day of public communal memorial for the people who were lost during the Nigerian Biafra War, which tells you that it has not been done enough. And it also points to the hurry with which the Nigerian state brushed over of collective mourning by the statements and the actions. And what is it today? What is times do you, I think the question should be how how present is this more in the Nigerian system if we see from time to time incidents reminding us that people do not even understand the implication of the war and what was lost in the war and who lost in the war. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
They choose to state it that nothing like that happened. And apart from that, we should note that when we're talking about media, the government controls the media, and we only hear what they want us to hear. The only media that is, to some extent, democratic is the social media. I said to some extent because we now see that there is censorship in some of the things we post, and that. So in a nutshell, it is contestable. It is an argument that does it really happen or not. So well, the question is there any claim that's happened? The question that we have any people or anyone who said that I lost my friend and this event is missing, the answer is yes. The state media report this research also this denied and people to also add the narrative, add their own narrative as well. Documents the missing and to group the missing people. And thank you so much for your contribution.
So I I I want to just say, I don't know if we still have. I am happy we have so many people interested in what we are discussing the whole on ground in Lagos. So in academic uh, world, which includes journal publication. So we are considering having a special issue that will come from this conversation. In fact, we already begun the process, and our proposal is on a table already. And because of that, I would all want us all to consider these questions raised and these doubts raised as things to say is that it is important to establish and convince others that you have proof or evidence of loss of life. For instance, there was I think a panel, a committee of investigation set up by the Lagos State government, and so it is your personal verifications. Establish first that someone was, then you can then move into the science of uh, yeah, and how social media can to intervene. Right. So every issue raised in your work, consider it as something, as a challenge, something that needs more fleshing, something that needs to be in work. I want to ask a general question. That general question is, I want to know if why do we need to keep to preserve the memory or to preserve the bond we have with our dead ones? To what end? Why do we need to preserve this? Because some of our presentations are in the light of keeping in touch, maintaining this bond. Why do we need that?
I think that is it a general question as such?
Yes, please.
Yeah, just okay.
I think
Why
it's
this?
okay.
Do we
Go
have
on.
Just,
this?
just, just a minute. Why this we steer for the general conversation on our central issue or theme for the panel. There are some questions specific I have for presenters, which you don't really need to respond. It's just something you may need to think about while you work on your paper. As you can see, there may not be enough time even to engage with some of the questions. Like after that, this one Ogochukwu brought up, we can, you know, uh, deal with that and use it to conclude our session. So for the first presenter, I was wondering if you have a theoretical framework for your analysis. That's for your study. I don't know if I missed that in your presentation, but supposing you don't have, you may consider anchoring your analysis, that's your study, on a theoretical framework. And it is also necessary that you may consider what, and for the second presenter that talked about digital money, you you may need to consider something like the aspect of collective embodiment that may be lost in digital money, given that digital money, maybe the comment on digital platform may not actually reflect the true money emotions of the the mourner. So, like seeing that this is more like a shift from traditional mode of mourning, which seems to have a ritual of embodiment, so what aspect of this is preserved in maybe online gestures of mourning, like using candle or emojis to react to event of mourning? So does it capture this essence? Then the I don't think we have much time. Then for the failure of planning, Sam, you can see that some of the presenters they seem to have a response to to your argument that is not having money. So the person that talked about digital money, as a shift, from traditional mode when there is nobody to mourn. So moving to digital money, and the person that talked about posters and public inscriptions as a way of money. So I think these are some changes that have taken place, and I don't know if your study wants to acknowledge that, but it's something you should keep in mind. So then For age of four, yeah, I think, is it? Yeah, the last person, that's age of four. I was wondering if memory plays any role in your study, given that your grief is premised on some kind of a personal interaction, revisiting the chat and finding something to grieve about. So I don't know if this is what you are thinking. What does such kind of counter with previous communications with the disease, say about the nature of grieving? What sort of affective response does it evoke from you, and how does this response contribute to grieving as an individualized practice of money, something like that? Yeah, thank you very much, and we can use the rest of the time to engage with the question my colleague posed. Thank you.
Do we still have time? Is it not from
Yeah, we still have a short,
minute?
maybe a minute or two. Yeah.
I think it's. I will run to August's question. Okay, to your question, I would say that the thing is, my paper is considering the specialty, if I should use that term, this messaging apps bring to the distance. Because if you don't have, it's something kind of digitally tangible that you there hands on, more like you would have a picture of someone who has passed. But this digital data is more sort of moving than a picture that is materially static, right? So that's so the special that is bringing that you could reread, you could also listen to voice note, and that all of this chat, this voice note and everything is quite. You can have interaction with friends when alive, and the person if you should visit that, So that's that. But the August question about why we need to, I don't think it's a question of need. I think that it is somehow, even if we want to forget, even if we choose to forget someone who has died, it's not that easy to forget. The forgetting itself might happen with time, but not like, oh, we've lost this person, let us just immediately forget the person and not want to keep bond. So there seems to be something in us that wants to, when we remember, want to recall and perhaps try to maintain a relationship with the dead person. And it could be because of what we shared with them when they were alive that compels us to try to keep this bond. But in the light of my theory, my paper, maintaining bond. So I don't think there's any that we need to really bother. There's something that compels on how we perceive life or how we perceive the people that we have lost.
Thank you very much. I don't know. We have exhausted our time. I don't know if we consider maybe how to.
Yeah, I want to say thank you, the organizers of this conference generally and this panel in particular. So thank you for giving us this opportunity,
You're
Source
welcome.
and Olga.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
Just want to thank you guys too, and to Source in particular to note that.
Join us in 21st.